All right, so you sent in some really fascinating stuff on Peter Bruegel the Elder,
Oh,
specifically his work Death Comes as a Fool and Serves Death.
Uh-huh.
And this painting, it's like a visual onion of symbolism.
Yeah, it certainly is.
It's packed with layers.
You also included some analysis by Ralf Graeber,
Yes.
a German artist and philosopher.
Yes. His perspective adds a whole other dimension.
Who even composed music inspired by this painting.
Exactly. And to set the scene, we're dealing with the central paradox.
Okay.
Bruegel depicts death as both absurd and terrifying.
Sounds intriguing.
And that's what we're going to unpack today.
Where should we start?
Well, right in the middle of the action, we see this fool literally serving death.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. He doesn't exactly scream Grim Reaper, does he?
Not quite. More like a jester.
Exactly.
Who wandered into the wrong gig.
Graeber describes him as comical, even.
Yeah.
But what details in the painting create that sense of absurdity?
Well, think about the traditional image of death.
Okay.
Skeletal imposing, wielding a scythe.
Yeah.
Bruegel throws that out the window.
Uh-huh.
His death is dressed in flamboyant, almost clownish attire.
Oh, okay.
And instead of a scythe, he's holding what appears to be a tankard.
So he just showed up to like a Renaissance fair or something?
It's like death decided to show up in the costume he borrowed from one.
Right, and it completely changes the mood, doesn't it?
Exactly.
It's almost like Bruegel is making fun of death,
Yeah,
poking at its seriousness.
precisely. And that's where the concept of irony comes into play.
Okay.
Bruegel is using visual irony to subvert our expectations.
Interesting.
He takes something we inherently fear,
Death.
and presents it in a way that's simultaneously comical
Right.
and unsettling.
That's fascinating. So it's not just that the fool is serving death, it's the entire visual presentation
Right.
that creates this ironic tension.
Yes.
And speaking of tension, Graeber points out the reactions of the two women in the scene.
Mm-hmm.
He describes one as trying to ignore death,
Yes.
while the other seems surprised by it.
Those two figures are crucial to understanding Bruegel's message.
So let's break them down.
Okay.
What visual cues suggest one woman is in denial
Right.
and the other is caught off guard?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a painting, so we don't have dialogue or anything.
But Bruegel masterfully uses body language
Mhm.
and composition to tell a story.
Okay.
The woman seemingly ignoring death has her back turned,
Okay.
almost as if she's deliberately avoiding eye contact.
I see.
Her body is stiff, her posture rigid.
Interesting.
It's like she's physically trying to shut out the reality of the situation.
Okay.
The other woman, however, is positioned facing death, her hand reaching up towards her face
Oh, wow.
in a gesture of shock.
I see.
Her eyes are wide, her mouth slightly open.
Yeah.
There's a clear sense of surprise and alarm in her posture.
Wow. You're right. It's like Bruegel captured that split-second moment of realization,
Yeah.
the moment you become aware of your own mortality. I'm curious, what do you make of this contrast in their reactions?
It's a powerful reflection of how we as humans cope with the inevitability of death.
Okay.
Some of us choose denial, trying to shield ourselves from the uncomfortable truth.
I see.
Others are confronted with it head-on, forced to acknowledge its presence.
It's almost like Bruegel is saying there's no escaping death,
Exactly.
but we all react to it differently.
And that leads us to a crucial question.
Hmm.
What does Bruegel want us, the viewers,
Yeah.
to take away from this scene?
That's a great question. What do you think, considering everything we've discussed so far?
Well,
The comical fool, the ironic presentation, the contrasting reactions of the women.
it's clear Bruegel isn't simply trying to scare us with a traditional image of death.
Right.
Instead, he's prompting us to confront death's absurdity,
Yeah.
its unexpected nature, and the range of emotions it evokes.
Okay.
He's inviting us to think about our own mortality
Yeah.
in a way that's both unsettling and thought-provoking.
That's such a nuanced approach. And speaking of nuance, we can't forget about the music Graeber composed.
Yeah.
Inspired by this very painting, it seems he picked up on a layer of meaning that goes beyond just the visual.
Graeber's music adds a whole other dimension to Bruegel's visual narrative. And he does this in part by emphasizing the passage of time.
Now that's intriguing because at first glance, it's not like there's a giant clock in the painting or anything. How does he musically underscore something we can't actually see?
That's the brilliance of it.
Oh.
Graeber uses a combination of musical elements to create this sense of fleeting time. He incorporates a steadily pulsing rhythm, almost like a heartbeat,
Okay.
that serves as a constant reminder of time ticking away.
Okay, so there's this underlying pulse that we can't escape, kind of like our own heartbeat. Does he use any other musical tricks to enhance that?
He does. The music also features these cascading melodies, descending scales, that evoke a sense of things slipping away almost like sand through your fingers.
Interesting.
It's a subtle but incredibly effective way of mirroring the transience of life.
Wow, I'm starting to see how Graeber's music adds this whole other layer of meaning to the painting. We've got this comical fool serving death, these women reacting in completely different ways, and now this music that makes you feel the passage of time. It's like Bruegel and Graeber are in a conversation across centuries, both exploring the same profound themes.
Precisely. And by layering those themes, the absurdity of death, its inevitability, and the fleeting nature of time, they create this incredibly powerful and multifaceted experience for the audience.
So we've talked about the visual irony, the women's reactions, and this musical undercurrent of passing time. But let's step back for a second. Why do you think Bruegel chose to depict death in such a seemingly contradictory way? I mean, it's both funny and terrifying at the same time.
That's a great question, and I think it gets to the heart of why this painting continues to resonate with viewers centuries later by presenting death as both a jest and a threat. Bruegel forces us to confront its complexity. He doesn't offer any easy answers or comforting platitudes. Instead, he invites us to grapple with the unsettling truth that death can arrive at any moment, disguised as something seemingly innocuous.
That's a chilling thought, but also strangely liberating in a way. It's like, if death can come dressed as a fool, then maybe we shouldn't take everything so seriously. Maybe we should embrace the absurdity of it all.
Exactly, and perhaps that's part of Bruegel's message. By acknowledging the inevitability of death, and even finding humor in its absurdity, we can free ourselves to live more fully in the present moment.
That's a powerful takeaway. It's like he's saying, hey, life is short, death is coming, so let's not waste time sweating the small stuff.
Precisely. And that leads us back to Graeber's music. The way he underscores the passage of time serves as a constant reminder of this very point, that our time is precious and we should make the most of it.
It's like a wake-up call disguised as a beautiful, haunting melody. So we've explored this incredible blend of humor and horror irony and inevitability. We've unpacked the visual details, analyzed the women's reactions, and even delved into the musical dimension added by Graeber. But where does all this leave us, the viewers, the listeners, grappling with these big existential questions?
I think it leaves us with a profound sense of the preciousness of life and a heightened awareness of our own mortality. But it also offers a glimmer of hope. By acknowledging the reality of death, we can choose to live with intention, purpose, and perhaps even a touch of dark humor.
It's like Bruegel is saying, hey, death is coming for us all, but until then, let's have a good time, appreciate the beauty around us, and maybe even laugh in the face of the inevitable.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Well, you've certainly added a layer of brilliance to this exploration with your insights on Graeber's work, but we have to wrap up soon. So before we go, I want to pose one final question to our listener who sent in all this fascinating material. So knowing that death can come unexpectedly disguised as something foolish, does it change how you want to live your life? What would you do differently, if anything?
That's a powerful question, and one that each of us has to answer for ourselves. There's no right or wrong answer. But I think Bruegel's work and Graeber's insights offer a framework for reflection.
A framework for reflection. I like that.
Yeah.
So it's not about prescribing a specific way to live, but rather prompting us to examine our own priorities and values in light of this knowledge.
Precisely. Perhaps it encourages us to be more present, to savor the everyday moments, to connect more deeply with the people we love.
Yeah.
Or maybe it inspires us to take risks, pursue our passions, and live with a greater sense of urgency.
It's like that saying, live each day as if it were your last, but with a touch of Bruegelian irony, right? Not necessarily in a morbid sense, but rather a reminder to embrace the absurdity and preciousness of life simultaneously.
Exactly. And perhaps that's the ultimate takeaway from this deep dive. Bruegel's painting, coupled with Graeber's haunting melodies, serves as a powerful reminder that life is a fleeting gift, and we have a choice in how we choose to unwrap it. We can cower in fear of the inevitable, or we can embrace the present moment, laugh at the absurdity of it all, and dance with the fool who serves death.
Beautifully said. A huge thank you to our listener for sending us down this rabbit hole of art, philosophy, and music. What a journey. And to everyone listening, keep those thoughtful suggestions coming. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep embracing the beautiful, absurd paradoxes of life.